just want to start by what I didn't say when the children were in the room is that the reason Husseini wrote this book, it was inspired by the story of Alan Kurdi, the 3-year-old Syrian refugee who drowned in the Mediterranean Sea. And another 4,000 shortly thereafter gone missing attempting this journey. And that's why he wrote this. So I wanted to mention that. And I imagine many of you, much like me, have been horrified and continue to remain horrified by how over the past year plus we, the United States of America, has treated strangers. The words of Emma Lazarus have popped into my mind dozens of times over the past 2 years. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless tempest-tossed, to me. I have on more than one occasion thought about my great-grandparents, Rocco on my dad's side and Raffaella on my mom's, who left poverty and feelings of hopelessness in southern Italy to come to these shores, dreaming of a better life. I think how Raffaella never learned a word of English, yet owned a small store in the South Bronx where fellow Italians could shop. And how she would bury her only son, killed in friendly fire in the Philippines in 1942, serving as a U.S. soldier, a point of great pride as recent immigrants. I think how my papa, my grandpa, Fred, worked 3 jobs his whole life to support his 7 children, who were told not to speak Italian because they were Americans and they had to be able to prove that they were American by not slipping into the mother tongue. For Rocco and Raffaella and Carmine and Giuseppina and all mi parenti, the United States was their refuge. They weren't fleeing direct violence, and they probably could have figured out how to endure the rule of Vittorio Emanuele III and even the fascist nightmare that was Benito Mussolini. But they still sought sanctuary, and their entry through Ellis Island gave them that. I should also note that one of my great-grandparents, Luigi Oriano, was a shipbuilder from Vico Equense in Campania, and one day he managed to climb aboard a ship he built, sailed from Naples, jumped ship, slipped into the crowds of New York City, never having been processed at Ellis Island. So I, technically, am a descendant of an illegal alien. Or what I would be lovingly referred to maybe 70 years ago as a WAP, without papers. Sanctuary, today's theme and the point of these stories, means simply a place of refuge or safety, and it comes, as we just heard, from the Latin sanctus, meaning holy. When we offer sanctuary, we are doing the work of the holy. Of course, we can offer sanctuary on many levels. In 2018, we saw our government imprison and torture children and their families who were seeking sanctuary from the violent conditions created largely by the American government in their home countries. We saw images of men and women carrying their young children thousands of miles to find safety, security, something better. And instead of them being received the way my grandparents were, or the way, I don't know, Jesus might have greeted them, they were locked up, starved, abused, and as we know, quite a few of them, children included, died during the process. I don't know about you, but I don't want to live in a world or even a country that thinks it's okay to let children die. To let children be separated from their parents, to suffer deeper trauma than they've already seen. When I was living in Guatemala in 1992 during their civil war, I saw firsthand the conditions of the life of the regular person, especially the indigenous people, of which my brother Angel is one, and saw that devastation and the body count, 250,000 people, were the direct result of American policy. I connect these dots and the images of women marching through the streets of Guatemala City looking for the desaparecidos to remember why people seek sanctuary. And I can say as a parent, I know that I would go through great lengths to keep my child safe. And as C. Prayer beautifully illustrated, when life at home gets so bad, you seek a new home for the sake of your children, you need to be able to do that. Writer and poet J.J. Bola says, "No one leaves home if the hurt that will come is greater than the hurt that they will leave behind. No one leaves if the ocean will swallow them up. No one leaves home if there is peace. As a refugee, there is only ever half of you in one place, because you have left part of you where you have come from, and half of you is rejected where you arrive." In many cultures, sanctuary is a command. I think of my own Italian roots where hospitality is next to godliness. I have yet to pay for a meal when I visit my friend Paola in Rome, and my adopted family in Forio d'Ischia keeps me and Raffaella in mozzarella and pasta every time we visit them. My parents, through the years, have opened their doors to countless people for meals or a place to stay when things in their own homes were too hard, and they have fostered well over a dozen children from violence-ravaged Central American countries. Oddly enough, though, my extended Italian family, the ones directly descended from the aforementioned WAP Luigi, embrace the term illegals, while fully supporting the policies and the politicians that put children in cages and work hard to make that those seeking sanctuary are turned away. It's mind-blowing to me how easily we can forget the blessings we were given when we sought refuge and a new start. How easily we forget the kindness of strangers. In an article in Yes magazine in 2017, Ariel Sophia Bardi wrote, "For much of human history, kindness to foreigners has been a cherished trait. The stranger who sojourns with you shall be to you as the native among you, and you shall love him as yourself," commanded the Old Testament. In Homer's epic, Odysseus traveled at the mercy of strangers, seeking out shelter in unknown lands. All throughout the ancient texts, divine beings masquerade as vagabonds, their disguises designed to test the mercy of their hosts. Graciousness is summarily rewarded while hostility or indifference leads to carnage and despair. Hospitality narratives highlight the rules of etiquette that once bound host to guest. The beginnings of Western civilization were shaped by these same codes of conduct. But now, at least through much of the developed world, hospitality, that safe harbor for weary travelers, is in danger of disappearing. End quote. Disappearing indeed. But I don't want to give up on it. I want to find a way for us as Unitarian Universalists to create and offer sanctuary, to be the holy place. Because let's face it, we are well aware of the horrors happening at the United States-Mexico border, and thankfully, numerous UUs are taking a variety of actions to address it. But many of us are less able and less interested in looking at how we are treating one another closer to home, how we, in just the county, in Kingston, in this sanctuary, in this holy space, can sometimes be hurtful to one another. We forget that this is a holy space. We call it a sanctuary for a reason. As J.D. Salinger said in Franny and Zoe, but most of all, above everything else, who in the Bible besides Jesus knew that we are carrying the kingdom of heaven around with us side, where we're all too goddamn stupid and sentimental and unimaginative to look. We carry the kingdom of heaven around within us, inside of us, all the time. If our heart is in a holy place, we are the omnipresent sanctuary so many people seek. And here's the thing. Those that want to take away sanctuary, to crush the lost, wounded, and downtrodden, will always find a way to do so. They will use their power and their wealth and their greed and their hate and fear to make a world, or try to make a world, that fits only their needs. They will have no regard for others, and they will forsake the holy, the sacred, the sanctuary, again and again. So we the believers, we who want so desperately to see a better world, who see and feel injustice, we will have to create and fight for sanctuary and to be the bearers of the holy wherever we go. I found this passage by the educator Parker Palmer, where he's reflecting on the term sanctuary. When I was a kid, sanctuary meant only one thing. It was the big room with the stained glass windows and the hard wooden benches where my family worshiped every Sunday. Church attendance was not optional for my sisters and me, so that sanctuary was where I learned to pray. Pray that the service would end, and God would release me back into the wild. I also learned that not all prayers are answered, no matter how ardent. Today, after 77 years of life in a world that's both astonishingly beautiful and horrifically cruel, sanctuary is as vital as breathing to me. Sometimes I find it in churches, monasteries, and other sites designated as sacred. But more often, I find it in places sacred to my soul, in the natural world, in the company of a trustworthy friend, in solitary or shared silence, in the ambience of a good poem or good music. Sanctuary is wherever I find safe space to regain my bearings, reclaim my soul, heal my wounds, and return to the world as a wounded healer. It's not merely about finding shelter from the storm. It's about spiritual survival. Today, seeking sanctuary is no more optional for me than church attendance when I was a child. So we need sanctuary. And we have it here, this sanctuary. But we are also the sanctuary. We are the sacred space. Your sacred space, according to Joseph Campbell, is where you can find yourself again and again. So as we enter into December, a time where the world seems to remember its sense of holiness, or tries to at least, how will we, each of us, manifest the holy, the sanctuary? We can offer holy resistance by calling, writing, marching, even rioting, to remind our elected leaders that borders are arbitrary, that suffering is universal, and that sanctuary is a right and the holy obligation. We can hold ourselves accountable to live more deeply into the sacred and holy and be the sanctuary-giving humans the world needs. And we can ensure our own spiritual survival and support the spiritual survival of others by living every day into our own holiness. May it be so.